Are you guys ready to spill some more tea? Because I am. This is the story of how I went from hiring my stepsister to work at my dog grooming salon to firing her and getting her arrested. Welcome back to part 2 of my series, Who Did I Hire? And it is just getting good, you guys. If you watched part 1, you know that we went all the way back to give you all the tea and everything you need to know how our main character villain was created. I left us at about 2021, started my own grooming salon. I finally did it. I opened my own salon, my own grooming salon. It was a dream come true. It was so worth it. I remember getting so excited when I found the place. And even my mom and Jake and his kids even helped me put the salon together. It was great. Lynn, my stepsister I ended up hiring, even helped me paint the salon, and it was so great. I was so pumped, and it really took off. Like, a lot of my clients somehow found me. Well, somehow, meaning I was down the road. And it really picked up, and I ended up getting like too busy for just myself, and I needed to hire another groomer. I ended up hiring a groomer I worked with at Petco, and let's call her Julia, because that's her name, and she doesn't care to be brought up in this. She actually is really excited for it. Still like COVID times, and I remember there was a time where Julia had to call out for 2 weeks straight, and I had like a bunch of dogs, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And so after I started my business, I had moved back home with my mom and Jake, and Lynn, the oldest stepsibling, was living there at the time. And so I come home one day and I'm like, I have so many dogs, I'm so booked. Lynn and her boyfriend are just sitting there watching TV, and I was like, hey, do you want to like try and wash some dogs for me and come in and help? And she was like, yeah, sure. Like, she had just ended another job. And both of her jobs in the past, there was always issues with other people. Like, there's always, like, reasons why she left. It was, like, everyone else's fault. Like, now looking back, it's very, like, victim-y. Like, left somewhere because someone was, like, mean to me. It was always someone else's fault. Oh, like, I ended up seeing that spin out at my salon later. But worked at some type of CNA type place, and, like, everyone else there was, like, mean to her or whatever. And, like, oh, she was a victim, so she had to leave. Then she was, like, waiting tables somewhere, and was like making a bunch of money. It was like like a little after COVID, so still not a lot of people were working at this place, and she got to like pick up all the shifts and make a bunch of money. And then when they like hired other people back, and for whatever reason, she stopped making that good money, and it was someone else's fault, their fault of how that went bad somehow, who knows. So anyway, so I'm like, all right, I'll hire her. So, and I remember after I had her stay for a week, and she was actually like really good, like dedicated, hard worker, jumped right in, started working. Like, it was going really well. She was interested, like wanting to learn things. And I remember that my mother and Jake, her father, warned me about hiring her and that it could go bad, and then they foresaw that. I remember Jake even saying he should probably fire her now so it doesn't go bad. And you know what? They were right. And there's a lot of reasons why they say that, because she is a product of her mother. Her mother, Amy, tried to mess with my mom for so many years, and is like currently going to this day. All because her husband left. You can't be stolen from a marriage. Like, if he was happy with you, he would not have left, okay? Get it through your skull. God. So, like, because she's just miserable. I mean, that's just, like, not even just to my mother, like, how she acts. Like, everybody can't stand her. Everyone is, like, weirdly, like, scared of her. And just, everyone says, oh, it's just easier to deal with Amy. It's just easier to just, like, let her think she's tough shit or whatever. I don't know. She, like, found out even more tea. Like, back when she got pregnant, like, Amy's mother had to, like, beg Jake to marry her. And it's like, and then he did it. And, like, that was a bad decision, too. Like, there's a lot of, like, bad decisions on Jake's behalf here that I am also pointing out. Like, I am coming from a perspective that is neutral, and I'm just lining out all of the things that happened. Okay? And I think like the most sick and twisted thing about Amy, and then now Lynn is also doing that with her kid. We haven't even got to like the section of her having a kid. Amy used her kids as weapons all the time. All they are a pawn to her. That's all she thinks of people in her life, of how they can, like, suit them. Like, the fact that she would talk nonstop crap and bad about their father to them at a young age. The youngest one was 3 when this first happened. And she would just ask that, like, she would make them be her little spies, ask them what was going on over at their father's house, trying to instigate so much stuff. So many times of her not letting the kids come over or being late or like just little annoying things. Jake had to fight every step of the way just to see his kids. And he really just wanted to be a good father. He just didn't want to be with her. And she did not care if those kids were raised well or not. She was just mad that she didn't get what she wanted. And so she'd use them as pawns, make them feel bad for going to their father's house and liking their father and liking their stepmother. Like, that was a terrible thing to do. And you know what I think it really is that someone like Amy doesn't know how to connect to people unless it's talking bad about others. And she's translated that into her kids. And I do remember, like, with Lynn being around her and stuff, like, she would a lot of times like to talk shit about other people. And that's just kind of like who they are. It was almost like it would just be an automatic thing. Like they weren't even realizing they were doing it. And so I think that just kind of like translated down. That's just generational trauma. And I think they should really look inward and think about that, and as to like why they always need to put down others. Because yeah, they would, I mean, even Lynn said like, her mother would be in one room while her friends are in the other room, and she's talking shit about the friends in the other room. Like, it's all messy and not good. Also, I remember one time, Amy apparently had, like, underage people drinking at her house and was, like, reported or something and tried to blame my mom. My mom's like, I didn't even know. I don't know what you do. I didn't report a party you were having with minors. Also, that feels like it should be reported. I don't know. Just a little weird. I think what really happened is I think when Amy finally got like a true like focus that she could focus all of her rage on to my mother, like that really gave her life purpose. It's kind of led to everything she's ever done since then. My mother does not give a shit about her. Like, sorry. Like, just to be real. Like, Amy really cares, but, like... And I have kept quiet and said nothing this entire time. 13 years. And I really just wanted to come on here, finally, and say my piece. And throughout all the years that led up to me hiring Lynn in 2021, Amy did not let up the entire time. Every school function my mother showed up to, Amy would bitch. Amy harassed my mother. She had her followed, had like her crew and minions follow her. She called my mother's employer trying to get her in trouble for God knows what. When Jake would pick up the kids from her, she would follow him to make sure my mother didn't like jump out of the bushes or something. Like, it was getting a little much. My mother's like, I am not this important. Why are you like freaking out so much? We had her mother, the kid's grandmother, write hateful things on Facebook. All of her friends, everyone from where they're from, write hateful things online. Like, it just looked so bad. Like, my mother ran into her friends and stuff. They would be, like, mean to her. Amy would pretend to be the youngest stepkid and text my mom, like, mean things and be like, I don't want to talk anymore and all this stuff. And the next time she saw her was like, oh, I'm so sorry you don't want to text me anymore. And she's like, I never said that. Because then the mother went in and, like, erased the text probably on her side. Like, this is crazy things to do to your kids, you guys. Like, she is using those kids as pawns, and it's wild. I just really hope they don't grow up to resent her, you know? But through all of that, Lynn really was like my mother and me's biggest supporter. Like, she would see through the bullshit from Amy. And like, I don't think she necessarily likes her mother, like just puts up with her. And so that's what makes this story even more tragic. I really liked her, and I tried to help Lynn out as much as I could. And unfortunately, this story does not have a happy ending. This brings us back to 2021. I had just hired Lynn. Go to part 3 to find out why that decision turned into a disaster.